As for Miss Markle, we know that she didn't wear a poppy on purpose because she tells the Daily Mail they're not widely available. Meghan attended the glitzy James Bond-themed party at Jeff Bezos' $165 million mansion on Remembrance Weekend with the commemorative symbol noticeably missing from her glamorous outfit, the Mail reports. Harry, meanwhile, had one pinned to his tuxedo, which he obtained after donating to the appeal during his recent visit to Canada. Sources have told the Daily Mail Meghan was unable to visibly honour the war dead, as poppies are not widely available in the States, unlike in Commonwealth countries, although in the past she's had no problem tracking them down. And of course, the body language between these two is now just abundantly clear, knowing the narcissist posted, "Miserable man and rictus grinning narcissist attend birthday party, one bored, the other fueled." A furious Tori Bakahi wrote, "The royal family are meant to honour the fallen on a solemn Remembrance Weekend in the UK, but the dumb, traitorous Prince Harry and his grinning wannabe instead chose to honour a Kardashian 5,000 miles away. No interest in duty, just tacky fame." From Stephanie Sidley, Harry and Meghan Markle, Tyler Perry, Oprah and Justin Bieber all attend Kris Jenner's 70th birthday party. Do I even need to say anything else? No, you don't. And Stephanie Sidley mused, "Harry and Meghan Markle will be on the episode of Kris Jenner's 70th birthday party on Hulu. We all knew this was going to happen eventually. This is the end of the road." And of course, the whole thing, according to Nancy, was just one big publicity stunt. The Kardashians don't have the same pull they once did. Their Hulu show has tanked, and this feels like their latest attempt to stay relevant and grab attention because, yes, the police were called to the event, as this footage shows. And the thing is, right, when you're talking about a party like this being so tacky that the police end up coming on a day where Prince Harry knew the optics were going to look so terrible for him, actually, I have very limited sympathy. And I also have no sympathy, if we just come back to me here, for Ms. Markle refusing to wear one of these because she knows how to get them. This was purposeful. But by the way, the thing that is actually so mortifying, look at Kris Jenner's post on Instagram immediately after the party. And this is why you know how much the stock of Harry and Meghan has fallen. I think there are the maximum of 20 pictures in this slideshow, including a gurning Mariah Carey, a whole load of celebrities who I don't even know. Gayle King, she made the mix. Not one glimpse of the royal couple. Because the reality is that in Hollywood, they're not royalty anymore. They're on the D list. So they may get the invite, but they're not on the Snoop Dogg or Oprah Winfrey level. And let me also just show you, this was a 2-event night for Meghan, but only one outfit. She attended the Serena Williams function before heading to Kardashian HQ, where Harry, again, managed not much more than a grimace. So, for all the royal news, let's team up now stateside with the Royal News Network. Its editor, Brittany, joins me now. Brittany, quite extraordinary optics, given Harry claims, and remember, he wrote that personal note last week saying he cares nothing more, Brittany, than the British veterans. And then on our most important day, Remembrance Sunday, he goes to a tacky party with the Kardashians. He can't even bother to procure his disrespectful wife a goddamn poppy. It's a stinking new low.
It really is, Dan, because you have to think Meghan has worn poppies pretty much every November. I mean, she even wore one to lunch with a friend a year or two ago, and yet somehow it magically disappears now and she can't find one. I just call complete BS on that. And when it comes to this party and comparing it to the actual working royals, all you can think is excess and versus service. So the royals are serving the people, they are remembering the fallen, and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are just there to indulge in the excess that those royal titles give them. Meghan Markle by herself, Harry just Windsor, without all the trappings of royalty, are nothing in that industry. They have achieved nothing. They have done nothing. Everything they've touched has basically turned to ruin. And so they are there just for the optics and just for Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle loves this. She loves the paparazzi. Harry claims to hate it, and yet he goes along with it, proving that Harry has really no pull or say in that relationship. He does everything on behalf of his wife. But I did find it very funny, Dan, like you showed, that Kris Jenner, she could have picked anyone to put in those pictures, and she did not choose one with Harry and Meghan. So I just don't think they had the pull they think they do. They get invited to the parties, but is anybody relying on them to help make them money? The answer is absolutely not. But they do get headlines.
Yeah, they're so far down the pecking order. It's interesting, Brittany, though, because even some defenders of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are not liking what they saw over the weekend. Tom Sykes of the Royalist Substack had this to say. A very quick but personal message from me to you to let you know that the best way you can support Dan Wootton Outspoken is to subscribe to my Substack at www.outspoken.live. Substack is a free speech platform that protects me from big tech cancellation and lawfare. Paid annual or monthly subscribers get an extra hour of content with the Royal Uncancelled After Show available every weekday with no advertising whatsoever. You can also message me direct on there. That's www.outspoken.live.
If Harry and Meghan are being advised by anybody about how to manage their image, they are either not listening to that person, or they're not telling that person what they're planning to do, or that person is giving them very, very bad advice. If they thought that arriving via the public entrance at Jeff Bezos's disgustingly opulent billionaire hidey hole mansion for a Kardashian party was a good idea, considering what was going on back home at the time, this place that Harry told us earlier in the week that he has a great love for, that he misses, and that he very much identifies as a veteran, because it is Veterans Day weekend here. It is Remembrance Weekend in the UK. On Saturday night, yesterday night, we saw Charles, Kate, and even young Prince George arriving at the Albert Hall for a festival of remembrance. It was an incredibly kind of moving event.
And I'm going to come to that shortly, Brittany, but what do you think in terms of what Tom Sykes is saying there about the fact that yet again, it just feels like these two ignore any form of sensible advice?
Well, when you think about Harry and his meeting with his father just 2 months ago, he claimed, "Oh, we're just going to try to avoid the diaries clashing. I'm going to share my diary with you." And then, of course, he does something which he knows is in the royal calendar for sure. And he goes along with his wife to this very overly opulent bash. The optics are just terrible and horrible on every stretch of the imagination. But Harry, at this point, he is beholden to whatever Meghan Markle wants to do. And he just doesn't seem to have that pull. And she definitely does not have the self control to not indulge her worst impulses when it comes to attention seeking. Meghan Markle always wants to be the center of attention. She wants the cameras on her. This is why she married Harry. It's why she was looking for a rich, famous husband, because she couldn't gain this pull on her own. Everything is at because of the man she married. And Harry was too dim to understand that. And now he's living probably in many ways his worst nightmare, but he married it. Like that, this is the end result of that chaos. And I'm sure he has some high points and some low points, but this is definitely just absolutely terrible. It destroys everything he did in Canada that week. And is just completely unfathomable that they would not understand how bad the optics are here. But again, Meghan wants to see the flashbulbs, so they have to do it.
What's interesting, though, Brittany, is that Tom Sykes actually believes that this is becoming more and more unsustainable, this clash between Meghan and Harry over their values. And why I think that's fascinating is because, sure, people like me have been talking about quite how destructive the relationship now is. But remember, Tom Sykes very much has a foot in the Markle camp. But he's now reporting this. Watch.
It just clashes completely with Harry's stated goals and Harry's stated principles, which is privacy, which is, he does not like being in these situations. And they keep coming together and crashing against each other. And it's just becoming more and more unsustainable, in my opinion. I think that by turning up at a party on Saturday, the 8th of November, 2025, literally as the other side of your family are attending, worthy, but I'm sure not particularly great fun, like events in London at the Royal Albert Hall or at the Cenotaph, like literally doing that at the same time as they're doing that. The contrast that you're inviting is just absolutely, it's just so obvious to me.
More and more unsustainable, Brittany. He's talking about their marriage there.
Oh, yes. Dan, when it comes to marriage and relationships, especially long-term ones, you really have to have a lot of things in common, hobbies and interests and those sorts of things. Not everything, but you do need to have a lot of things and a good foundation for what are your shared values. But we see where I think Meghan has talked about the value of privacy and these sorts of things. I think we all know it's a smoke screen for what she really wants, which is absolute control over her image. And so she does that in particular ways and forces Harry to parade himself around the paparazzis when he's previously said that it's PTSD for him to see those camera flashes and to think of his mom. And I can imagine that being true. And so for his wife to not have any sympathy for his experiences and just continue to draw him out so she can go to these parties, because again, they're getting that invitation because of him, not her. I just think it's unbelievably cruel. And between that and all the strife with his family, and you see this sort of kind of clash, this bipolarness with Harry, where he really wants to be royal and British again and everything. And yet he still continues to sort of indulge in this Americana lifestyle and this fame and fortune of Hollywood. You see just this inevitable clash of, I think, personality and I think purpose in life. I think Harry is directionless. I think he doesn't really have a greater vision for what he wants to be. And he doesn't really have a job anymore, it seems like, either. And so the guy is just kind of puttering around trying to find meaning in his life. And he lets his wife dictate far, far too much of that. And you get these inevitable clashes. These are not going to get better. And again, Harry undermined his entire tour with Canada by going to that Kardashian party. It's like, does he care at all about the work he's doing? I don't think so. Is he chasing the cameras as much as his wife? Probably. And it's just going to end up in a mess. And I think they're going to inevitably tear each other apart because I think they want very different things out of life.
Yeah, I think that's so far down their own rabbit hole, Brittany. They can't actually understand how obvious things are for us. Like, for example, and Meghan's mole pointed this out, William, who has really taken to wearing these double-breasted velvet blazers and did so, by the way, in Rio for the Earthshot Prize last week, immediately copied by Prince Harry at the big night out. And of course, as Meghan's mole says, let it be known, Harry never wore velvet blazers until William did first. And the thing is, Brittany, we know that is a small sartorial decision, but it all comes with a deeper meaning. But first, this time of year, the air gets harsher, the heating's on, and skin takes a beating. Dryness, fine lines, that loss of bounce. So now I need to tell you about how I've been avoiding those issues through the incredible products of OneSkin, the world's first skin longevity company. It's led by an all-female team of PhDs in skin regeneration and tissue engineering, and their standout technology is the OS1 peptide. Instead of just masking dryness, OS1 is designed to work at the cellular level, targeting senescent cells, the troublemakers behind wrinkles and reduced elasticity, so skin can behave more like its younger self. By addressing aging at the source, OS1 helps support a stronger moisture barrier, improves the look of firmness and bounce, and smooths rough, tired-looking texture. The result is skin that looks and feels more resilient, better hydrated, and visibly healthier, supported from the source rather than just the surface. The range is simple but powerful. The best sellers: OS1 Face, a moisturizer and longevity serum in one; OS1 Body for crepey, dry, or thinning skin, perfect when the seasons change; and OS1 Eye, their most concentrated formula for the delicate eye area. Every formula is dermatologist tested, safe for sensitive skin, NEA approved, backed by 5 published clinical studies, and trusted with over 10,000 5-star reviews. If you're ready to upgrade your routine for the colder months, start with Face and build from there. This season, don't just moisturize, support your skin at the cellular level with OneSkin. And for a limited time, you can try OneSkin with 15% off using code OUTSPOKEN at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with the code OUTSPOKEN. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. And please support our show and tell them it was via Dan Wootton Outspoken. Try OneSkin today. But now, back to the show.
It really does, Dan. And when you think about Harry and particularly his PR team, it's like even the whole announcement of the tour to Canada, they're like, oh, we had to wait to announce it because of, he doesn't get treated like basically his brother. And I'm like, well, of course he doesn't. They don't have the same status anymore. What are you talking about? And they're like, he's not competing. It's like, but he looks like he's competing. This is all about optics. And I think Harry's PR team and Harry himself are just not cognizant enough to go, hey, it looks like we're constantly trying to compete with William and Catherine. Hey, yes, you chose that velvet blazer, but maybe change it up for this event. Because again, everybody's looking for it now because Harry and Meghan have trained us to look for it. And so every time we see these things, because they've happened so frequently, it's hard not to draw comparisons. And so I think Harry himself would do so many favors by just trying to recognize that and adjusting in due course. But he just can't seem to think to. He just, I think, wants to be as important as his brother. He's desperate for that. And he inevitably just steps his foot in it all the time, attempting to compete. And it's just so incredibly obvious. Harry might think he's being subtle, but he's not by any stretch of the imagination.
Brittany, the far more significant moment, and the moment which actually quite chillingly Prince Harry would have hated most over the weekend, was Prince George emerging for really what comes close to his most official formal function as a royal, a future working royal, at the Royal Albert Hall ahead of Remembrance Day on Saturday night. Huge poignancy here, Brittany. William was not back in time from Brazil. This was long planned. But given Charles's very obvious health struggles, which are there laid bare, I mean, you only had to see how ill he looked on Saturday night. And this I find really upsetting, actually, because there's certainly a sense, Brittany, that as we get further into this cancer battle, the king is almost leaning into his vulnerabilities and his mortality. But of course, the fact that William was effectively replaced at that event by his son, the heir to the heir, I think had deeper significance, given everything going on. What did you make of it, Brittany?
Well, it's definitely an interesting thought, Dan, because Prince George participating did surprise me. I thought this was an event he would do in his later teens or kind of very early in his working royal career, because Catherine and William have done things with their children, I would say, very differently than some of their continental counterparts. Some of especially the Spanish, I would say, and the Swedes, like their children are very involved in quite a a lot of large events. And so George appearing here did surprise me, but at the same time, it does make sense because the working royal fold in the UK has definitely gotten so much smaller. And I think they will need George, Charlotte, and Louis to be, I think, huge aspects of the monarchy. I mean, they truly are the future. And so to have George there, I think cements the continuity of the monarchy. And so I think that was important there, shows him as the heir to the heir, and how that the future of the monarchy is secure in that way. And so I thought it was lovely that he attended. I think, that's a good age to start attending these style events. But at the same time, it was definitely a little bit of a surprise as well, but just a happy one too. It was very sweet to see him at that event and being there with his mom, being very serious. He definitely has, sort of first child energy. So it was good to see him there, though.
It was. And Tom Sykes has really been on this story about the quiet transition which is going on. And he agreed with me on the optics, Brittany. He wrote The Future on display. Prince George steps into his role beside the king. And he added, sure, he has been to royal events before, but tonight, with the added poignancy of King Charles looking rather drained next to him, there was a clear sense of the heir's heir deliberately being placed within the line of succession, although William wasn't there. And personally, flight from Rio notwithstanding, I felt he should have been. William will be at the cenotaph to lay a wreath beside the king on Sunday, which obviously he was. Palisades will insist, as they always do, that George's debut at the Remembrance Service was long planned. Still, the king's ongoing battle with cancer has quietly accelerated the process of bringing his grandson into the royal diorama. The Princess of Wales wore a black Alexandra Rich dress with a white collar, a handmade poppy, and earrings once owned by the late Queen, and guided her son to his seat beside her. Saturday night's event commemorated the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War and the 25th anniversary of the lifting of the ban on gay, lesbian, and bisexual service members. Hannah Waddingham hosted Performing We'll Meet Again and dedicating it to her veteran grandfather. The King and Queen, seated beside the Princess of Wales, and George appeared moved, clapping warmly for the Chelsea pensioners in their scarlet coats. Behind the poise, this staging was deliberate. With the King's health uncertain, the presence of the 12-year-old second in line beside his mother and grandparents projected a message that the dynasty holds and that the next generation is readying itself. And then we move to the event the next day, Brittany, and the imagery was so upsetting, actually, that the Metro even ran with the headline "Tears of the Crown" on its front page. And this was as a result of this moment, Brittany. Watch. Oh, Brittany, it gives you chills, doesn't it? But it's very clear that Charles is feeling the emotion of these moments. Not surprisingly, and I have huge humanity given what he's going through towards him.
Yes, he's had a couple of very difficult years with the death of his father and then his mother. And then obviously the break with Harry and Meghan has been, I'm sure, a great burden as well. And then you top it all off with his cancer battle, in addition to the cancer battle of his daughter-in-law. And all of those things weigh so heavily. And I think it makes these moments so much more poignant, because I think you feel the weight of that mortality, I think, even more in many ways. And obviously, we don't know the exact status of his cancer battle there, but obviously, with him continuing to undergo treatments, it is quite concerning. And I'm sure he was really hoping for the first years of his reign to be very robust, and to unfortunately have this sort of cancer setback, I'm sure, is something that has been deeply impactful, and I'm sure deeply it's been a big struggle for him and a big disappointment in many ways. And so the future of the monarchy is secure, but at the same time, I think Charles wishes in many ways he had more time. But we shall see. They're making great strides in cancer treatments. But yes, you feel the emotion at this event, the veterans, and I'm sure losing a lot of the World War II veterans is a deep moment as well.
I want to show you a little bit more of Tom Sykes's analysis, Brittany, on this emergence of Prince George. Watch.
Are being softened up for a new Prince of Wales. We are being introduced to the new Prince of Wales. We all know it's going to happen in the next couple of years. And it is extraordinary to think of the change that is happening and going to happen to the royal family in the next few years. We think a lot about King William V. We don't think so much about George, Prince of Wales, the new Prince of Wales, how young he's going to be coming into that role. With the Duchy of Cornwall, of course, one of the most enormous property portfolios in the United Kingdom, going to be potentially in the hands of a minor. A very, very interesting turn of events. I just get the feeling with Charles missing COP30, with William speaking on his behalf, I think there is a bit of an acceptance now within the palace machine that it's okay. Charles can lean into his vulnerability. He was actually close to tears last night at one point. And, I don't know if he's thinking about his own mortality or not, but there certainly was a poignancy to it all. There was a clear sense of this is the heir's heir. There was a clear sense of the line of succession, even though William wasn't there. He was on his flight back from Rio. Personally, I felt he should have been there. I felt he should have got back in time, but there we are. Look, Palisades say that George's appearance was long planned, that there's nothing special about it, that they're not, they'll try and play it down. But I think that is not what I felt. I felt that this was an acknowledgement of the succession, of what is happening, what we can see happening in front of our eyes. So the staging to me felt very deliberate. And I think that George did a brilliant job. I think that things have been explained to him.
Yeah, I mean, Brittany, you're not going to hear this in the mainstream media. You're not going to hear it from the Royal Rota. But Tom Sykes is right on this, because remember, William did not intend to have George at major events like this at his age. And we're not going to see much of him, okay? William is utterly, utterly stoic on that point. But, I hate to put it like this, Brittany, but the succession timetable is being sped up.
It really does look like it is, Dan, and I think you're completely right there, and so is Tom Sykes, because they're trying to definitely start to pull in this a bit more. And again, I see comparisons to the European counterparts, because most of the time when someone becomes king and queen, let's say in the Netherlands or Spain or Belgium, the children are actually still minors. And so oftentimes you do see them start to flow into events more and more, especially as they get a bit older, because they are basically the heir. And so they'll be young teenagers now or even children, and they're doing some of these larger events. So I do think we're seeing Prince George being very much poised here as the future Prince of Wales, getting people ready for probably this change that is going to occur. Nobody, of course, is wanting this to occur so quickly, because the pressure on the British is of course so much greater than any other of their counterparts. But at the same time, it's hard to avoid the inevitable that it just does seem to look like George will most likely inherit the title Prince of Wales, although of course that is a title given by his father, so he may just become Duke of Cornwall for a short while. But that may pass when he's still a minor. He has 6 years until he's 18, and so that's just a sort of sad reality of the situation. And I'm sure something that Catherine and William, of course, especially given Catherine's own cancer battle, are not really looking forward to that additional stress and pressure on their family. So I think we'll see George here and there more, maybe a bit of Charlotte as well. But this is definitely a sign, I think, of things to come.
It absolutely is, Brittany. And look, we're going to move over to Substack now for the Royal Uncancelled after show, because if you